Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thank you for joining us at Retail Revival this year. My name is Payal Hindocha, and at Emarsys and SAP, I have the privilege of working with our clients and our partners to bring our solutions to market. Joining us now is Bulk, who are Europe's fastest growing supplier of sports supplements and nutritional products. And joining me from Bulk is Scott Jonsmyth-Clarke, the head of CRM, and we'll be discussing what Bulk's successful direct-to-consumer approach is and how this has helped them capitalize on the growth of online retail, but also how this approach has helped them to navigate through various changes in the industry, such as Brexit and changing habits and lifestyles of their consumers. Thanks for joining us today, Scott.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do at Bulk?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've been in sort of primarily retail and leisure in regards to my background, and really, yeah, sort of started specialising in CRM in the last sort of 12 years. But prior to that, a good marketing generalist. But yeah, more recently, then started my career with Bulk approximately 6 months ago. And yeah, as the head of CRM, then yeah, pretty much as my title suggests, everything to do with our customers, maintaining relationships and generating loyalty all falls within my remit.
And Scott, 2020 and even 2021 so far has been a big change, even for online retail brands, but for Bulk even more so, because your consumers' lifestyle had fundamentally changed. And not only were people not going to the gyms and buying less nutritional supplements, but you also had challenges like Brexit to deal with on top of that. How did Bulk respond to some of these challenges?
Yeah, you're right to say it's been a very challenging and tough year for many retailers. So yes, I mean, obviously as the UK and a lot of the world went into lockdown in sort of April, March 2020, obviously that changed our consumers most definitely, because obviously they go to the gym, and where they couldn't do that, then obviously their consumption of our products reduced. Of which we obviously had to adapt to that. You know, there weren't consumers that we wanted to ignore because their consumption had reduced. We still wanted to entertain them, provide positive experiences, and really sort of share our experience and how they could still maintain their nutrition, even though that their access to the gyms had been restricted. And then certainly more recently, then yes, Brexit has obviously had its challenges too. You know, we sell to many different markets across Europe. In which case then yes, you know, that put more pressure on our sort of logistics and actually getting product where it needed to go. So that's where again we had to really upscale our communication with our customer to try and explain what was happening, what we were trying to do to alleviate any problems in regards to, you know, their orders or their experience. So, and we found that was really key. That communication, how we could deliver that communication across multiple channels, was really important.
And you went from bulk powders to Bulk, which is quite a big shift and a rebrand. What drove that decision to reposition Bulk as more of a lifestyle brand, and how did your customers respond to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think as you know, many people can see, particularly within our sector, it's very much discount driven. But that, you know, that's something that was sort of part of why we wanted to rebrand. You know, we wanted to really focus on becoming a partner with our customers and supporting with their changes in lifestyle and wanting to be more healthy and, you know, improve their fitness. We really wanted to hone down on nutrition, and that's really the crux of our brand. Is, you know, we want to provide the best nutrition for our customers to enable them to meet their health and fitness goals. And that's, you know, that was really the most important thing we wanted to really sort of focus on and get across to our customers, which, based on feedback and certainly within sort of trade press and things like that, has been extremely positive. And another key thing that we sort of brought in as part of our rebrand, which is really important to our core demographic, was sustainability, producing packaging that was recyclable or compostable across the range of our products. And that was really important for us to do. And again, great feedback from our customers.
And you've also mentioned in previous conversations that your direct-to-consumer focus has played a really big role in helping Bulk conquer some of these challenges. And currently, what's your split for Bulk between third-party revenue and direct-to-consumer revenue? And how have you seen this change over the last 18 months?
Yes, I mean we are. Yeah, we are predominantly selling direct to consumer. That is the main bulk of our business, and yes, we do sell on sort of third party providers and marketplaces too. But I think when it comes to the split, and let's say our emphasis is really on our direct to consumer, because we know that that's where we can provide a much better experience. We have control. They're our customers, whereas on third party marketplaces, they're not our customers. We really, obviously fulfill the process. And because of that, and because that opportunity to provide that much better experience and own that experience, and that's certainly a key reason why we would put more emphasis and put more effort into our direct to consumer business.
And many brands who are going direct to consumer are looking for, or even looking to go direct to consumer. They typically have a first party customer data deficit. And being a brand that's really mastered their direct to consumer approach, and you actually have a strategy to capture first party data, how is Bulk capturing and even using first party data to improve the customer experience and ultimately drive loyalty from your consumer base?
Well, yeah, this is it. I mean, I think that you've hit on a real key point there, is that I think in a lot of cases, a lot of brands forget about the relationship element. We are dealing with customers, we're dealing with humans that really want that relationship with a brand. And yeah, the first party element is obviously really important to us, where we have customers that have specific goals they want to reach, there are specific dietary requirements that they have, and that's really important to us to find out. So we use techniques, progressive profiling, for instance. We ask questions, sort of via our website, through automated communication. So welcome program, obviously absolutely perfect for something like this, just to start that relationship and building that relationship with that customer by getting to know them more. And by doing so, then obviously we can provide the correct solution or the correct products to meet their goals. And I think that's just the perfect way of using first party data to create a positive experience and build a positive relationship for the future.
That's a really great way to keep building that momentum. Is there any other parts of the customer journey that you use first party data in to improve that experience outside of the welcome journey?
Yes, we do. Yeah, I mean, sort of, very broadly, also within our BAU communications. So we use, product recommendations based on their goals or their dietary requirements. But it can be applied anywhere, to be honest. I think that's the really important thing about it, is that it's great for reactivation. Again, it's just proving that the brand understands that customer. Welcome, love to welcome you back. We miss you, and here's some things that are absolutely perfect to meet your goals. Plays its part within post purchase, so great sort of upsell, cross-sell type process as well. But yeah, abandoned basket. You can provide great recommendations in there based on something that they have abandoned. So yeah, so I think the usage is really broad, and I think that's the really important thing behind it, is that you can do so, and how important first party data is in personalizing that experience.
Yeah, you do need first party data now to personalize that experience, and even more so when you're just going out to start that direct to consumer strategy of yours. And there's a general trend within the industry when it comes to brands moving away from third-party sources and moving more towards direct-to-consumer. What advice would you give to brands starting out on that journey? Because as a brand and as a head of CRM, you guys have really mastered that approach. And with CRMs, a core function to knowing who that customer is. And what advice can you give to some of the other brands who are just starting out in the direct-to-consumer journey?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's sort of two parts to it, really. So I mean, the sort of first party we've sort of covered off, but it really does come down to knowing your customer, and I think that's where brands can really win in regards to sort of like third party marketplaces, because they can really own that relationship. So yes, I mean, I think where possible, get to know that customer more. What research could you do? Could you do surveys, questionnaires, whatever it may be, to really understand their needs, their wants, their aspirations. But then I think, be really clear on the goal ahead. What data do you want to collect? What is going to be important for the brand to know in order to enhance that experience for that customer? Because as we know, as we've tested, is that the better the experience, the more chance that customer will return and repeat purchase. So I think it's being very clear on the goal and what data can be achieved at various points throughout that journey, and almost effectively mapping that out, so you know exactly where you could collect and use that effectively.
And Scott, the reality is that even those brands who are going direct to consumer, the customers will still want to buy products via third parties. What advice would you give there in terms of how a brand can accommodate that? Because you can't really control where the customer wants to buy from, but at the end of the day, it's the brand that they love.
Yes, yeah, it is exactly. You know, I think, you know, where sort of third-party marketplaces, you know, sort of come into play is that, you know, it can give you obviously additional access to customers that may not reach your website. You know, so there is a great strategic element to it. But as I said earlier, yeah, it's not something you can really personalize the experience. So I think you have to sort of try and trade that off as to yeah, how much business you want in what area, and in particular with those sort of third-party marketplaces is how can you present your brand. So you have options to, you know, sort of show your brand and have, you know, specific content on those areas, in making sure you really get that across so that yes, they know exactly what brand they're buying from, albeit on a completely different area. And I think that's where that sort of brand recognition sort of comes into play. So then you've got a good chance when they come to repurchase, they might land on your site, in which case is generally a much more profitable scenario.
And where do you see this direct-to-consumer business model going? And what do you think are going to be the next steps towards driving success in this model?
Yeah, again, probably a couple of parts that sort of come into mind. So I think, you know, the relationship and experience element comes into play. You know, I think where people have switch their shopping behavior to, you know, from the high street to online, then customers are still gonna want that relationship, still gonna want that personalized experience. But I think the other part to it is you know, I think there's growth in subscription type services. And again, I think that really just comes back to that consumers want less friction. You know, they want easy ways to purchase and to not necessarily think about repurchasing. And I think that's obviously where subscription comes into play. You know, it's a great tactic for loyalty because it just keeps people entertained, you know, keeps the brand front of mind, and new product turns up on their door when they're expecting it and when they need it. So yes, so I think there's going to be a great surge in subscription-based, you know, scenarios and tactics that will be employed by many brands.
People have changed the way they buy, not just probably what they buy, but also changed the way they buy products now. And part of that is also how important personalization is, and being able to personalize for the customer first has been a really cool part of what you're able to do at Bulk. Where do you see this? Where do you see the future of personalization going in retail, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's obviously going to continue. I think, yeah, it's something that the customer yearns for. You know, I think regardless of the channel, you know, they expect to be treated as an individual. You know, I think that's an important thing to remember, is that, you know, I think when it comes to, you know, how that will grow within years is just going to be the adoption of channels. Yeah, how can each of those channels really adopt a personalized experience? And then again, bringing in the omni-channel element is, well, how do then all those channels interlink? I might engage on one channel, but that conversation must continue on the next channel rather than a restart of the conversation. So I think that will just continue. You know, I think where brands are still trading on the high street, then again, I think that's where personalization will come into play there. But it has to be fueled by CRM data, and to have the technology to be able to do that. So yeah, regardless of where the customer is, that the conversation is seamless, you know, and that's something I've always sort of focused on in the past, is it has to be maintaining a conversation. We are dealing with normal human people. We like to have a conversation rather than just to be spoken to. So there has to be that element of feedback from the customer, which then purely, you know, continually feeds personalization. I think it'll just be a continual important point to focus on in the future. Is
that engagement of the customer that drives loyalty? And there's always going to be new channels, but if you know who that customer is and you can personalize for that customer's behavior and attributes, then it's easy to then make sure that the communication is consistent across all of those channels. And you raised that point really, really well there. And Scott, for any seasonal event or even Black Friday, it's really changed in the last few years. What's in store for Bulk this year for Black Friday or any seasonal event, and how are you and your teams preparing for it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, seasonal events in general are really, really important to us. I think it's a great way, again, to sort of get people to understand and create awareness for our brand, and obviously our new rebrand as well. But yeah, Black Friday is an important event for bulk, as it is for many retailers, and it's something we've already started planning. So and our process for doing so, again, with any event, is to, what can we learn from previous events? What worked well, what didn't work so well? How did customers behave? How did they engage across the various different communications and channels that we use? And utilising learnings from that. But I think, as we sort of said earlier, is that consumer behaviour has changed. It has been forced upon us through COVID and the impact that it has had on us. So I think it's going to be taking into account that as well. But yeah, I see Black Friday again, particularly for the sector that we're in, to be important. I think it's still going to be a big driver for revenue. But yeah, I think events are broader than Black Friday. Yeah, I think it's really important to have those type of things sort of spread throughout the year. And yeah, it will continue to be an important area for bulk.
Do you see that being an area of, because you mentioned it's a key area to drive revenue, is that from new customers, or it's a mix of new customers and your most loyal customers who would need maybe tailored or different communications and different types of engagement to the new customers that you want to acquire during that time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, we see our existing customers respond really well, as we would expect, because we know them the best. We can utilize the channels that we have to communicate. We can utilize personalization, which again, it just comes back to that level of experience and providing that that positive interaction with the brand. But yes, really important for new customers too, and that's where we look to really leverage what we know about our existing, to know exactly who we can target and approach on other channels that we might not currently be on. But yeah, to really increase awareness of our brand and to increase new customer sales. And we saw that again with lots of other direct-to-consumer businesses, is when the first lockdown happened, is that a lot of customers went online. A lot of brands achieved a lot of new customers. But again, always the challenge is, well, how do you keep them? They've been triggered by a certain response, but then how do you engage with them? How do you get them to repurchase? And again, it all comes back to that element of, how do you have that conversation? How can you get those people to engage across multiple channels where the customer is happy to engage? And utilizing personalization to treat them as individuals. And I think that's where brands really win, where they can do that.
Scott, thank you for sharing those insights there. I certainly found them very, very valuable. Is there any other advice, tips, or best practices you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think probably just hitting back on one of the sort of, key points that I made earlier, is that consumer behaviour has changed. I think lots of brands have conducted lots of research over the years, but I think based on what we've done and what we've learned, I'd urge other brands to reappraise customer behaviour. Go back out to your customers and see if you are still delivering what they expect. Have their in our case, has their consumption changed? Are they looking to buy something else? Have their needs changed? And I think that's really important. Sort of go back, particularly in the scenario that most of the world has had to go through. It's now to understand what the new normal is for those customers now, and how they want to interact and what's important to them. Because then the insights will be absolutely priceless and will fuel what you'll need to do next with your CRM function.
Thank you for joining us today, Scott, and thank you for your long-standing partnership with Emarsys.
No problem. Thank you for your time.
At Retail Revival this year, we have many other leading brands who are sharing their insights and best practice on their success. Please be sure to catch the other sessions, but they're also made available on demand to watch them at your convenience. On behalf of everyone at Emarsys and SAP, thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us today.